it just records me. So start recording there, and I'll spotlight myself. Let's see here. Spotlight. And we are ready to go. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone had a good New Year's and good, happy holidays. We got a little bit of snow here in Michigan, but it is all gone. Like, I think we have a pile out there somewhere. But it came and went within 2 or 3 weeks. So it looks like for the next week or so, it's going to be in the 30s. So nice. So welcome. Let's get started. I think we have probably about 35, 40 people that signed up for this, and not everyone shows up. They watch it, at a later date and all that. And I have about 4 or 5 questions. I'm still trying to figure out the magic number on those questions, because what I like to do also is at the end open it up for just a few questions that may come. So combination of old school, just open, ask me anything, and then some questions that were pre-asked. So let's get started. Everyone knows who I am, so I don't have to do my little bio. These Ask Me Anythings are pretty much for my members. So we're going to go to the first question here. Chuck, I thought this one was interesting. Chuck asked, can I see what album a photo is in when I'm in the Photos app? And what he means by that is when you go to your music app on your iPad, your iPhone, on your Mac, what you are able to do is place music into different albums. So I'm a Pink Floyd fan. I could put Pink Floyd into my classic rock. I could put it into progressive rock. Maybe I have different lists in there. And when you right-click on it, what you're able to do is see what albums it is in. Kind of a nice feature. And he's wondering if you can do that with the Photos app as well. And I never really thought about it, so I did a little bit of research, and the short answer is no, you can't. What he would like to do, just so you can kind of see here, if I go to my Photos app, and we have all my different albums here, and if I have a photo in multiple albums, it'd be kind of nice to see which albums that photo was in. So the first thing that I did is I went over here to my library, and let's put a photo into an album. So I'm just going to put this into Untitled Album, and let's put it into, not really tulip time, but so I just put that into those 2 albums there. Well, if I right-click on it, like what we can do in music, what I'm able to do is see where that photo is, what albums it's in, or the music. I'm able to see where that is. We can't do that on the iPhone or on the Photos app. Even if I go to the metadata, this is where we can see all of the metadata, what camera it was taken with, the date and all that. I thought, well, maybe it's going to be in there. Nothing in there about what albums. So, Chuck, the short answer, you can't. What I would recommend doing, I thought of this, I hardly ever say this, but when people come up with some good ideas like that, I think it's a pretty neat, feature kind of thing. What you can do is go to apple.com, and I believe it is feedback. So it's just apple.com feedback. And what you're able to do is give feedback on features, on products, whatever. So if you think that something needs that, all you would have to do is go to software here, go into Photos. Chuck, I would recommend this, going into Photos here and suggesting that. And maybe if they get enough suggestions, they will add it as a future feature. Sometimes I wonder if Apple actually looks at this, I'll be honest. But I think from what I've read, the last 2 or 3 years, they really are listening and changing, because some of the features that they've come out with iOS and iPad OS and all that have really been out there, and then they reel them back because they're getting feedback from people like, that really doesn't work for us, kind of thing. So I think that they probably are listening. At least I hope they are. But anyway, it's been there forever. As you can see, it's organized really well, and all you have to do is just say what type it is. So feature request, put in your comment there for what device, and maybe you can help add features to some of their products. So, all right. Next one. My text messages are intermittent. Marcy, I think you're with us, right? And we emailed a couple times, but I thought this is a good one anyway, and I spelled intermittent wrong. When sent to a Samsung, so it's basically what she's been doing. This is happening for several years. She has a daughter that has a Samsung, and when she sends messages, sometimes they don't go through. And she's like wondering why, what's going on there. So I gave her a couple of different links. But basically, what's happening here, I thought this would be a good thing to kind of explain, what, messages, Apple Messages, and other messaging. Let's see, I'm going to look it up here. All right. So what, the advantages of having an iPhone with messages and how it all works. So. Basically, text messaging is an old technology, and it rides on unused bandwidth. Think of the old text messaging, when you're on one of my favorite phones, the StarTAC, Motorola StarTAC was a great phone. But when you texted with that, essentially what they used unused bandwidth. This was kind of like a feature that the cellular companies added, and it could send a text message. Didn't require a lot of bandwidth. It didn't really do a whole lot. You didn't have to worry about texting from multiple devices. It just rode with your phone number. Everything just kind of worked. And it worked well, but as time goes on, all of a sudden we have all these different devices. We want to send a movie. It couldn't send a large movie. It couldn't even send a large photo, and it still can't. Group messaging, if you have, I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you have
just a ginger ale.
I'm going to mute everyone, and if anyone has any questions, you know how it works, just unmute yourself. Mute all. And I should open up my chat here too. So hold on here a quick second. Chat. Okay. So messaging, text messaging is a tried and true technology, but it's an old technology. And it didn't have a lot of features. You send a text message out to a group of friends or family. It didn't sync across the different devices. It couldn't sync. It just didn't do it. It couldn't do it. So what Apple did is they came up with a service that rides on top of text messaging. And essentially, when you send a message out with an iPhone, it uses Apple's proprietary messaging service. And what you're able to do is send movies. You can send, we've all seen it. We can send a lot of stuff. It has the screen effects. When we have a group of 10 people, it'll keep everyone in sync. All you have to do is throw one person that's on an Android device into that group of 10 people, and everything gets out of whack. And that is because they don't have an Apple iPhone. So what Apple could do is extend their services out to Android. And there have been rumors for years that they were going to do this. I think Phil Schiller wanted to do this years ago. But if they did that, the selling point of an iPhone is, one of the reasons is the messaging. The messaging on an iPhone is far superior to anything on Samsung, Google, anything like that. So they didn't really want to port it over to Android because all of a sudden they might lose some of their customers. It's a marketing decision. They decided not to do it. Could they do it? Absolutely. So basically, messaging works really, really good with syncing and all that kind of stuff. It goes through Apple's servers because everyone's on an iPhone. It goes through their services. It just works great. Throw somebody in there with an Android, things start blowing up. It works most of the time, doesn't work all the time, which is what I think Marcy's running into. So what Google, Samsung, Verizon, AT&T, they are getting together, and they are coming up with their own messaging service. to compete with messages, which is great. And this is called RCS. So essentially what they're going to do is the problem that they have is they all have their own technologies and they're all fighting for, well, I want to include tracking for ads. Well, no, I don't want to include tracking for ads. Well, I want to be able to do this. And then Google says, well, I don't want to be able to do this. And then Verizon says, I want to be able to do this. So you have, this group of people that can't come up with a core set of features. Yeah.
Jim.
Oh, okay. Mute everyone again here.
Good. I'm going to call you back.
Thought he was talking to me. All right. So basically, these companies, they can't come up with a core set of features. That's why you haven't seen anything yet. They're getting very, very close because they know they are losing customers. People are going to, one of the reasons why people are going to the iPhone is because of this right here. The messaging. It's far superior than on any other phone. So eventually we will see, something on par. And what Google just added, I think Verizon just added, if you send a memoji over to someone that is not on an iPhone, it actually receives that memoji or that thumbs up, and it'll give a thumbs up. It used to just say, Dan liked this. Now it actually gives the actual thumbs up emoji. So they can do it. It's just a matter of getting everyone to agree on how to do it. And they're getting closer. So I think they're getting really close because they know they have to do it. They have to do it. And Apple, and they could, but they are not going to go to Android as far as we know. They're just not going to do it. They have something, they have an advantage, and they're going to try to keep it on the iPhone. There was talk of maybe even government coming in and saying that they needed to do it, and that didn't go anywhere. So, but basically, it's eventually, hopefully, what we're going to be able to do is converse with everyone on par, no matter what device you're on. But right now, it is it's just not possible, just because everyone's not playing well with each other. They could, but they're not. So,
Dan?
Yeah.
This is Marcy here. I'm able, within a string, I'm able to send and receive to her text messaging, and sometimes it doesn't. So why does it sometimes work? It's just because there's more bandwidth available at that moment, so it goes through?
It could be. The thing is with text messaging, it's like a one-way street. It could send that message out, and it doesn't know why it can't send it out, and then it just sits there because there's not not a lot of technology behind text messaging compared to messages. What Apple can do with messages is be like, okay, it didn't go. I'll try it again in 5 minutes. Oh, it didn't go. I'll try it again in 5 minutes. And the text messaging just doesn't have that robust of a feature set. Now, one thing that you can do, and it's not big here in the United States, but it is huge over and outside of the United States, is use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a messaging and works on Apple, works on, it's basically like Messages, except anybody can use it. The problem with it is if I were to get on my soapbox and all that, it's owned by Facebook. But it's a lot of people. It is by far, I want to say, the most widely used service worldwide. Just not big in the United States because we have a pretty good system here with all of our cellular phones and all that. Because we have unlimited voice and all that, where they don't. So with WhatsApp, they can get by with all that. So I think my wife, she plays hockey, and what she will do is. Most of our friends use iPhones, but we have a few of them out there that do not. And I believe that what they do is they converse on WhatsApp a lot, or something equivalent to that. The other advantage, what I think is kind of cool with WhatsApp, and hopefully we'll see this with Messages, is you can categorize different conversations. So I could have a conversation about hockey, and then or I could have a conversation about, I have a good friend who we send dad jokes to each other. I'm not a dad, but, they're just funny, silly little jokes. It'd be nice to have a kind of like a forum or whatever, and WhatsApp does that kind of thing. So Messages is not perfect by any means, but You might want to, if it keeps happening, what you might want to do is just, try WhatsApp, see if that works. Yeah.
Thank you.
Something I never got clear about, when I'm sending a text using Apple devices, of course, I always send it to a cell phone number. Do some people send it to their email address? Is that something that may have?
So,
that's
yep.
not mine.
Like I said in the beginning, the way that text messaging works is it tied it to your phone number because that's just how it worked. Well, when Apple came out with their messages, they were able to tie it to your email address or your phone number. So what most people do, because it's a habit, if I go and create a new message here, and let's say I wanted to send something to Chris, what I would do is I would enter in her phone number here. That's typically what we do. That's we know that's how it works, that kind of thing. But if I knew, and if she had a Samsung, in most cases it would go through. But if I knew what her email address was, her Apple ID email address, because this is a messages thing, an Apple messages thing, I could type in Chris at blah, 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 and it will also go to that. If we go to
But what if they're on an Android?
Android, I think you have to send it to the phone number. It won't work if you're going to see someone can send it to these two addresses here. And this particular computer, this particular iCloud account is not tied to a cell phone, so you don't even need a phone number. If you email me, if someone were to right now message me, nobloomproductions@me.com, it would come into this computer through my Messages app, and you can't do that on an Android because this is an Apple Messages thing. I would need a phone
Just
number.
wondering if the confusion with the person who's not getting it is because they're on a non-Apple and
maybe somebody sent it as now by default. Usually, like here, you're going to see it says start new conversations. So if I were on my big computer, or my MacBook Pro, it's not really a big computer, but my MacBook Pro, my phone number would be in here because that's typically what you want to do is have it start new conversations with the phone number because that's just how we know it all works. But if you don't have, you can do it with an email address. I just like I say this one's just not tied to a phone. So does that make sense?
But only for Apple users.
Yeah, only for Apple users. Now, what you want to do, so you've seen, I've talked about this before. If you have an iPhone, what you'll want to do is, my iPhone should be coming up here. Is that my iPad? I got it backwards here.
That's the same iOS.
Hold on here. Where's my eCam? What you want it to do, is it this one? Sorry. There we go. Give me a minute here to fix this. Back on the OBS kind of thing, these are all just layers, graphic layers, and all I'm doing is just putting things over top of it so it makes it look like I'm on an iPhone. Well, I am on an iPhone, but it makes it look better. OBS, or what I use is eCam. Okay, so I'm on my phone here. What you want to do is go over to the Settings app here, and under Messages, you want to make sure that text message forwarding is on. And the reason why you want to do this is your computer, so let's go back to how this whole thing began. It began with phone numbers, cell phone numbers. Well, guess what? Your Mac doesn't have a cell phone number. Your iPad doesn't have a cell phone number. I mean, it does. if you have a hotspot or, but most people just buy the Wi-Fi model, no phone number. So text messaging, the original text messaging, which is what Samsung, if someone sends a basic text message, it's using that old service. When they send you a text to your phone number, where's it going to go? Well, it's going to go to your iPhone because your iPhone does have a phone number. Perfect. That's what I want. But let's say you're on your iPad. Wouldn't it be nice to also receive that text message on your iPad? It won't happen unless you turn this on. You have to turn these on. So now what will happen is someone sends me a text. Let's say your daughter sends me a text message. It's going to go to my phone here. My phone will then forward that because this is text message forwarding. What it's going to do is it's going to forward that over to all of my other devices. So it's going to forward it to these devices. So generally speaking, I like to leave all of this on. I want it forwarded to all of my devices. My brother, I'll give you an instance where you may not want this. My brother shares his iPad. It's just sitting on the couch with his wife, and they play games on it and all that. And he doesn't want text messages forwarded over to that iPad, but it's tied to his iCloud account. So what he can do is he can turn that off. Things like that. There are cases where you may not want to do this, but for all practical purposes, essentially what you want to do is you want to turn text message forwarding here on for all of your devices.
Thank you. I think my iPad one was turned off on that, and thank you. Maybe that was...
Yeah, so now you probably, that's part of the intermittent issue that some people, like, wait a minute, I got a text message, it came to my iPhone, how come it's not coming to my iPad? Oh, wait, now I got this one. Why did this one come to my iPad? Well, the main reason is that the iPad is receiving messages from Apple services. So if someone sends you a message from an Apple device, perfect. But if someone sends you one from a Samsung, Google Pixel, or anything like that, your phone is not going to forward that onto your iPad, and you're not going to get it. So.
Maybe you will, and we'll see.
Now, now it should. Now you should. I can't really help anyone on the Samsung side of it. I don't really know how that works, but I can just say this is how you can set up your Apple devices to get the most out of them, for both text messaging and messaging, which is, like I say, it's basically, this is why they have that, because it's still a prominent thing. Text messaging, it's just how it all works. So, good. All right. This is from Kevin, and he emailed me and he said that he gets how what you can do with your iCloud is you can turn different services on and off. Maybe you don't want to use iCloud Mail, you can turn that off. You don't want to use iCloud's calendar or Exchange's calendar, you can turn that off, Google, all that good stuff. But what he was running into was when he saves a video on YouTube on one device, it doesn't necessarily show that it's saved in his other device. And why would that be? And then he already had the answer. He knew the answer. But I thought this is great because I run into this. He's like, is it because I'm using 2 email addresses with Google? And I can probably say with a good amount of confidence, absolutely. And the reason why I say that and why I run into it is because I have 2 or 3 different Google accounts. And Google makes it really easy to create different accounts. Unlike Apple, most of us only have one Apple ID. Mine, danwasink@mac.com. I do have a Noteboom Productions at me.com, I think, too. But, for the most part, we have one iCloud account, and that's it. Apple really doesn't, you can't mix and match them or anything like that. Pretty simple. But with Google, what you are able to do is create 2, 3, 4 different Google accounts, and you might not even know that you have 2 or 3 or 4 different Google accounts. And why do I say that? Because a lot of schools use Google. So when you, like my email address, dwasink@hollandchristian.org, has nothing to do with Google, but it's hosted by Google. So I have another Google account. When a site, if I were to log into a site that requires my school ID, let's say I wanted to go to, calendar.google.com here, and I want to sign in with my school account, I would use my school email address because it's Google. You're going to see that Dan at Dan's Tutorials. My email address is hosted by Google. So even though Dan at Dan's Tutorials, it's still just a simple old Google account. So when I go to a site, it's going to ask me, sign in with your Google account. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, which Google account? I have a Dan at Dan's Tutorials. I have a Dan Wasink at Gmail. I have a D Wasink at Holland Christian. And to make matters worse, I put my videos on YouTube as well with advertising. So I make a little bit of money off of advertising there for people that want to see my stuff. But that is tied to my Dan Wasink at Gmail account, when really it should be tied to my Dan at Dan's Tutorials account, but it's not because I created that afterwards. So it gets to be this big mess, kind of thing with Google. It can easily get to be a big mess. Add on top of that, with Chrome, being that it's Google, and it's a nice feature. I'm not complaining about this, but it complicates things. What you can do is create different profiles. So you're going to see I can sign in here. So let's go and sign in. So I'm going to sign in. Let's go with, anyway, I don't know my password and all that. But I would sign in, and then I would be Dan at Dan's Tutorials here. Well, what you can do is switch to a different profile. So I could go down here and add another Google account in here, and then I can switch to that other profile. So I could have a profile for my school, I could have a profile for my work, and then I could have a profile for my personal stuff. And I just switch in between them. Great feature, but it adds a layer of complexity. So if you just want to try to keep it simple, it all of a sudden can get a little bit murky if you accidentally created some of this stuff. And with me, what I have to do, and I think I'm pretty good with this stuff, but it's confusing to me, so I can understand with Kevin too. What I have to do on my Mac, so when I log into YouTube, I do that through Chrome. I don't have to. I'm a Safari person, but I log in through Chrome on my Mac to get to my YouTube studio and upload videos and all that. Because on Safari, I'm logged in as danwasink@gmail.com into Google. Well, if I switch out of danwasink@gmail.com, all of a sudden things get kind of messed up. I could create a different profile, but Safari doesn't support profiles yet. I'm hoping that they add it next year. So basically what I have to do is I have to use two different browsers depending on if I want to go to my Gmail account, my Dan Wasink at Gmail account, I go to Safari. I want to go to my Dan at Dan's Tutorials, I go to Chrome. And I could even go as far as use Brave, and that would be my school account if I didn't want to go through the different profiles. So as you can see, it can get a little bit murky. So Kevin, short answer is, my guess is you're signed in as two different users on there. You probably don't even know that you have two. I know his school, because we've talked about his school, I think uses Office 365. I was surprised at that. It's a nice school then if they're using that. But he probably does have a couple different accounts in there. So that's the first thing I would check.
Right, so my follow-up question to that, though, was, so how do I check to see which account I'm signed in with? I mean, I guess that you can sign out. If I sign out,
Yeah.
I don't. So that's what. So that's the.
Yeah, basically what you do is you would sign in, see what email address, or if I was signed in, I'd be able to see what email address. Well, here, I'll sign in. I can do that here. And this is in Safari. Or what you could do is, just use two different browsers. It's what I have to do. Just makes it easy for me instead of trying to figure it all out. But, I just go up under here and I can see what email address I'm using. And then go to your other device and do the same thing and see what email address. Oh, you're on an iPad, not on a Mac. I'm sorry, Kevin. So you would go to YouTube. Let me make a switch here. This. My iPad is showing my phone now. Let's go to my phone. So you would go to YouTube on the iPad. And once you sign in, you'll be able to see what email address is being used. And then you can go from there. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused at that point. I mean, I have, for lack of better words, a hot link or a favorite or whatever. I just click on that and it goes to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I know, like when I was at school, it wasn't coming up on my iPhone. It was other things were coming up, and I'm kind of like, I have these things, and so that's what prompted it. So I guess what I'm also saying, I don't sign out, so I should be signed in. So I'm just trying to find out how I can find out.
Is this on your iPad?
Yeah, the only things I have, are iPads and iPhones.
Yep.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna get my.
So my iPads are one I use 99% of the time, but the iPhone, because I don't usually take the iPad to school.
Right.
So, but when I'm there, I'm thinking, oh well, I got this on my iPad. It should be there, and I go in, it's not there. So it's kind of like, where is it? And that's what prompted me to send that question. And what I could only figure out is maybe I have 2 Google accounts. Probably do. I don't know. But
I'm gonna say that you do. I can sign into my iPad now. All right. So now we're looking at my iPad here, and let's go to YouTube. Oh, I have to download it. Give me a minute here. Should go pretty quick. I got a pretty good connection here.
But you're actually downloading it now, I guess. So you're going to have to log.
I'm going to have to log in. Yep. But then once I log in, we can see where I can find to see what I'm logged in as. Yeah. Yeah. That's my goal here. So.
Yep. Understood.
All right.
I mean, I think you have a profile or something. I think you got like a thing in the upper right or something. I think I clicked on it before, but it's not very descriptive.
Oh, I am signed in here. You're going to see I'm signed in under D, so I must be signed in. So
yeah,
just click on it, and there it is. So, and
yeah, I think I did that, and it for whatever
you're
reason,
also going to see here, Kevin. Remember I talked about profiles with Chrome? Google also has that. I can add another account here. So if I wanted to sign in with my danwasink@gmail.com, let's see if I have it in here. And like I say, this is it's a great feature to be able to do this, but there we are. It can get confusing. As you know.
Yeah, and I guess I'm a little confused what you said too. So you mean you're supposed to use two different browsers? You're supposed to use Safari for.
That's what I do.
But do you have to? I mean,
no, you don't have to. Not at all.
You would just go in with Safari and then click on Add Profile and then put
the
other one.
Yep. I have just been lazy and not figured the whole thing out yet.
Okay, and then can you toggle between the two then, or do you?
Yeah.
Have to, like,
well, that's what we're going to we're going to look at that here. I'm logging in as my Dan Wasink at Mac. So now I have 2 different profiles on this iPad. I have my Dan at Dan's Tutorials, and then I also have my Dan Wasink at Gmail. So if we go up here to the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see I'm signed in because it has my, I know what logo I'm using there or what picture. This is my personal account, and we can see it's my personal account. And if I want to switch to a different account, I click on that, and now what I'm able to do is switch to a different account here. So I can go here. Now I'm looking at my Dan at Dan's Tutorials. I want to go back over to my personal account, click on it, click on my account, and I go over here. Now I'm back at my regular account.
How did you get, what was the next step if you click on your profile in the upper right? What
So
was the
click
next
on,
thing you
yep,
did?
click on your profile, and then you click on the name here.
The name. The
Yep.
name. Okay.
You can
So
see
what-
right where my cursor is
What-
right now.
Did you click on the name or did you click on Manager Google?
Nope, I clicked on the name. I'm on the name
Okay.
here. And when
And
I click on
and
that,
when you click on the name, that brings up any profile that you might, all your profiles.
yep, yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And that's why I say profiles are really cool. I just haven't figured it out yet on, well, Safari. I'm a Safari user, so and Safari doesn't support profiles. That's probably the biggest problem. So I can't, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, you can get around it, but it doesn't, I want Safari to support profiles, basically.
And I'm sorry, I guess I didn't pay close enough attention. So you just did that in Chrome?
No, I did that with the YouTube app. That's in the YouTube app.
Because I'm saying, what are you referring to using? You can't do in Safari. You just did it in Safari.
No, so I'm in this is just the YouTube app. If I,
Oh, well, you're in YouTube. Okay, so
Yep.
you mean, so yes, once you're in YouTube, you can do it.
yep,
Okay. I guess I'm thinking you're going to YouTube through Safari, but
yeah,
maybe not.
yeah. YouTube app,
Okay.
I would, yeah, the YouTube app. When you send something over to the, save that video, it saves it into the YouTube app and you'll be good. So then you can get at it, under your saved.
Okay.
But,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
All right. What else do we have here? How can I zoom into an iPad or change the resolution of an iPad? And basically, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able, there are a couple of different ways that we can do this. Oops, I'm not showing there we go. How can we zoom into an iPad? So essentially, there are a few different ways to do this, and it depends on which iPad you have. With newer iPads, now this is an iPad Pro, what I have here, this down here is an iPad Pro, but it's an older version. It's not using an M1. So it doesn't do everything. So if you're using an M1, there's actually a display in the Stage Manager, I believe. There's a display where you can actually go and change the resolution, kind of like what you can do on a Mac. But I'll show you the different things that you can do, and we'll start out with display zoom. Well, actually, no. Let's just go over to my iPad and we'll just kind of run through some of them. All right, there we go. So we're looking at my iPad here, and the first thing is we know that we can change the text size. And essentially, if we go to my settings here and we go to display and brightness, what we are able to do is change the text size. Let's see, it should come up here. It's a little laggy there. There we are. We can change the text size. And that works nice, but it's not, all you're doing is changing the text size. So let's say you wanted to make everything a little bit bigger, like when you are on a Mac or a PC or anything like that, when you change the resolution of a display, you are making everything bigger and everything smaller. Well, the way that we do that on an iPad, we can do that to a certain degree, is if you swipe up, and again, this isn't available on all iPads, but you're going to see down at the bottom, display zoom. And with display zoom, what we can do is set it for, I'm going to say it's not necessarily larger text like it says here. It actually makes everything larger. So I have it set for larger. So when I do a demonstration, everything's just a little bit larger so everyone can see. So everyone can see it. If you go to default, everything's just a little bit smaller. So this is kind of like changing the resolution. I'm going to tap on default here and tap on done, use standard, It's going to restart the iPad, so it doesn't take long. I think it's just more of a springboard reset. And there we are. I should have, everything's just a little bit smaller. You're going to kind of see this because I'm going to tap on done. So if we look at the left side here, I have Johnny Appleseed at the top and accessibility is at the bottom. Now I'm going to zoom in. Also, if we look, you're going to everything just, you can see that there's a lot of space between the sidebar on the left and what's on the right. If I go to my home screen, there's a lot of space in between my icons here. Everything's just smaller. So if you want to make everything larger, go back to that display and brightness, and we go down to display zoom here. And I'm going to make everything larger, and you're going to see, now that I pointed some of the stuff out, you're going to see that everything's going to be a little bit larger. So now look at the space in between the sidebar and everything else. Remember, we were at, when I scrolled all the way down here, I could see accessibility. If we look here, it goes down to general because everything is larger. I have to swipe up, and there's accessibility. So we can see it. I'd say it added, 20%, made everything about 20% larger based on my crude way of looking at this. If we go to the home screen, we can see that all of the spaces between the icons, it's just a little bit tighter. This is generally how I have it set. Everything, it's a bigger fingerprint is what they call, or footprint. It's easier to tap on the icons, easier to see stuff. So that's one way of changing the resolution. You can do that. Not available on all iPads, but I believe it is available on most. Another thing you can do is use zoom, display zoom. And with display zoom, what you can do, I'll demonstrate it and then I'll show you where you turn this on. With display zoom, what you're able to do is zoom into, it should show me here. Oh, it's not, there. No, it doesn't, okay, I have to look in. It's not allowing me to show you what display zoom is. Display zoom, what it's doing, maybe if I go to my overhead camera, and I'll just pick it up here. See the little square there? That's display zoom. So I can go and zoom. And this works from within any app. So I can go to Safari here, and we can, just zoom in there. And all I'm doing is hitting Command-Shift-8 to do that. As you saw, I have a iPad with a keyboard. Makes it a lot easier with a keyboard. Where that setting is in your accessibility settings. So we're going to go to my accessibility. So I go over to settings here. And then what we need to do is go to accessibility. And you're going to see zoom at the top on the right. And these are all of my different zoom options. So what I use is the keyboard shortcuts. That is located right here. And essentially, these are all the different options, and you can see all the keyboard shortcuts. I wouldn't try to memorize all of them, but, well, I can't memorize all of them. But the one that I use is this one here, Command Option 8. When I hit that command, the Option key, which are right next to each other, and then the 8 key, what it does is it puts that little square that I showed you on the screen, and then what you can zoom in and look at something. There are a lot of options for this display zoom. Right now it is set to a window zoom. That's why you saw that little window. So I'll show you again here.
Do you do the same thing, the same keyboard shortcut to toggle it off?
Yep, same one. It's just, yep, on and off. So I'm going to turn it on here. And we're going to go to my overhead. so you can see it. Hold down the Command Option. Come on, you can do it. Now when I want to show it, there we go. So there it is. That's a windowed zoom. It's in a window, and I can move that window around. There is a tap on Windows zoom here. What we can do is go to full screen. You're going to see this here shortly.
Full screen.
Window zoom I personally use the window zoom. You'll see it in some of my tutorials because I want to show people where something is or whatever. But I have a specific case for it. But you can do the same thing on the Mac. I'll show you this on the Mac. Actually, I just created a lesson on this on the Mac, but I'll show you on the Mac how this works on the Mac too. But now, if we look, I turn it into display. You can't see it on there, but I'm going to go with my overhead camera. You're going to see everything is zoomed in. And what I need to do is swipe around. Let's see, come on, there it goes. I take 3 fingers and I'm just swiping on the screen to move it around. And now when I hit Command-Shift-8, Command-Option-8, it is back to regular size. Command-Option is zoomed in, and I can use my fingers to move it around. So that's how you can zoom in on the fly, I guess you would say.
I hope that'll work on the iPad mini.
I believe it does. This is a universal. Well, I have an iPad mini here. My Keynote is running on it, so you won't be able to see. Well, here, I can do that. There's my iPad mini with me in the back there, green screen. Just ignore me there. Settings and accessibility. There we go. And you're going to see zoom. Keyboard shortcuts. There it is. I can set it, mine is set to window, like say I usually use window. Yeah, it's all the settings are there. Same thing with the iPhone. It's set up the same way on the iPhone. On the Mac, we have the same thing. Now I'm using macOS Ventura, but so you're going to see my system settings as opposed to system preferences. But you would just go to system preferences and then go to accessibility. Basically, we just go to our accessibility here. This is a trick that I used at the Apple Store when I worked there 10 years ago. If I had to read a serial number, or basically we had this enabled on our admin computers. So when I needed to type something in, whatever, and that computer, was 5 feet away from me, even though I had younger eyes, I still couldn't read it. So essentially, what we did, all the genius, we enabled this feature that I'm going to show you here, this zoom, and I used modifier key. And when I do that, all I have to do is hold down the control key. I just created a lesson on this one. When I hold down the control key, I can zoom in.
Wow.
And if you look at my overhead, I aim this down a little bit so you can kind of see here. All I'm doing is holding down the control key. So I just can't see it there, and I take my 2 fingers, and you can kind of see what it's doing there.
Excellent.
That's a trick that we used all the time when we were at Apple, when I was at Apple. And I'm going to, well, I don't know if they still use that. They use iPads and all that for everything now. Let me get back to my Keynote here. Okay. So there we go. So that's how you can zoom in or change the resolution of an iPad, and it works the same way on the iPhone, and also how you can do it on a Mac as well. It's in accessibility. Been there forever.
Yeah, my husband was having trouble with the mini, trying to see the screen, and wanted to use more than the window zoom. So yeah, we know about pinching and pulling in the window and making it bigger, but
yeah, the display, when you do the whole display, like you saw on my Mac, that's basically how I have it on the Mac. And I probably would do that on the iPad, except that's just my way of zoom, getting this little trick. I use display zoom to do that, because there's no app that I can do that on the iPad. But I do like the whole display, kind of thing. And I just kind of
Yes.
zoom in where I want, It works
Thank
great.
you so much.
That is all I have here. Well, actually,
Okay,
pretty
I
good.
have one related to that.
Yeah,
Well,
go for it. So let's open this up. I have about 15 minutes. I want to meet my family for their first bowling thing. So
That's right. Okay, it's the text size. I got my iPhone 14 Pro. And I'm having issues with it hooking up with my watch. It initially did, but that's different. But the text size is small. Now, going back to where you said, for my iMessages, at least that is like, do you go back to where you changed that text size, which you did earlier, where you go to the settings, display and brightness? Or does that impact everything on the iPhone?
So,
or is it just
good question.
text?
So no, what you can do it either way. So when I go to my settings here, and if I go to that display and brightness, so wait for my screen to catch up to me here. And we go to display and brightness, and I adjust the text size here. That adjusts the text size for everything. Now, if you want to do it for an individual app, you can do that as well. And the way that you do that is, oh, by the way, the iPhone also does have that display zoom if you look down at the bottom. So if you want to make everything in your iPhone just a little bit larger, that little trick that I showed you, you can do that on the iPhone as well. But anyway, if you wanted to change the text size, let's stick with messages, and you wanted to change the text size of messages only, you can do that as well. And the way that you do that is through the control center, but we have to add a control for that. So I'm going to go to my settings at the very top here. So we go to all of my different settings here. There it goes. And then what I need to do is customize my control center. So I go down to my control center here. And these are all the different controls that are available in the control center, and we can customize this. One of them that you'll want to add is text size. I have it added here. If you don't have it added, where it's going to be is down at the bottom here. These are all the controls that you can add. So all you have to do then is find text size, tap on the green plus, and it'll put it in the control center. So that's how that works. Now,
So
how do we
moves it up from that bottom list there? Up
just hit the
to
green
when it
plus
has
and
something.
all you have to do is hit the green plus and it'll add it to your control panel. So now let's see how this works. I'm going to go over to my Messages app. And I want to make the text size for the Messages app larger, but only not on any other app. Right? That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
So I go to my control center. So I swipe down from the upper right-hand corner here, and I'm in my control center here. And the text size control is this one here. You'll see it here shortly. Come on, you can do it. There it is. It's the double A's there, small a, big A,
okay.
Kind of thing. So when I tap on that, what I'm able to do is change the text size. You'll see here shortly. There it is. Just drag this up and down to change the text size. Right now, what it is doing is it is adjusting the text size for all the apps. I want to make it just for Messages. What I do is I tap on Messages Only here. I make the text size larger, and it will only affect the text size for Messages. So now I swipe up
Okay.
to get out of here. And you're going to see gigantic text for my messages. But everything else, if I were to go to Safari, it doesn't affect it. You'll see here shortly. Doesn't affect it. I could go to any other app. It's not going to affect it. But it does affect my messages. If you want to bring it back to normal, what you need to do is go back over to your control center and tap back on those two A's. And then all you have to do is just turn that messages only off here. Just turn that off. So basically just tap on all apps. When you tap on all apps, and this works on the iPad too, for those of you that have an iPad, you can do the same thing on an iPad. When I tap on all apps, what it's going to do is reset the size of messages to whatever I have here. So right now it's set to 110%. We can see this up above there. So now, when I go back over to my messages, you're going to see that everything's back to normal, or 110%. So you can set the text size on individual apps, and that's how you do it. Now, it doesn't work across all apps. Apple has been pushing developers to use dynamic text for several years. So I'm going to say it will work on the majority of them, the vast majority of them, because any good developer is going to use dynamic text. But if they actually, if you get into the coding world, what you can do is you can say, I want this text size to be 12 points, and that's it. Well, when you hard code it like that, it's not going to change the size. But I'm going to say that most developers don't do that anymore, because Apple for several years now has been saying, let's go to dynamic text. And this is the reason why, because they knew that this was what they wanted to offer. So sometimes it takes a little bit for the developers to catch on to that. But that's
Dan, one quick thing about what you had said about going to your MacBook and being able to zoom and have that window and your modifier key for scroll gestures. Because I am using a MacBook Pro, an M1, but I'm using my studio monitor, it's telling me that I have to choose my display. When I tap on that, it says please add one additional display, but when I go down to my displays, it's recognizing my studio display. So
when you go here to Zoom Style,
yep,
and you go to full screen,
yep,
and choose display, what you see is, do you have it set to all?
No, it just says secondary display not found.
Ah.
But when I go down to where it does say displays, it does show me right up at the top that my display is my studio display.
Oh, I think I might have just screwed things up. My computer just locked up. I just tried to change it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's a quick reboot, but I don't know. I would say, I don't know. The first thing I would do is restart it, which is what I'm going to do with mine right now.
Okay.
And see where that goes. But yeah, I just got a black screen on mine now.
Oh, yep.
So, but restart it and see if that works. Outside of that, I'm really not sure. It should work. It works. Yeah, I just have I have 3 monitors right now, but let's see if we're back to normal here. I think we are all right. We're good. Good to go. Although I think my display changed size now. Everything looks a little smaller.
Yeah.
So yeah, displays can be a little. Usually what I do is I just kind of set them up once, and I don't really want to mess with them too much because, I like to have this at a lower resolution so everyone can kind of see. So I think I use 1600 by 9. Yeah.
I don't know, mine just says Apple Display P3 600 nits.
Yeah, that's not right either. I'll have to play around with that. Something's not right now. No biggie. I can fix it. 1680. You can see if we look in the upper left-hand corner, my
Yes.
the apple is cut off.
Bars off.
So I need to, but that's nothing. I've run into that before, so I know there's a fix for that. I just don't have it set. Any other questions? I will have another AMA. I will at least schedule another AMA for 2 weeks. And does anyone want to have a class on anything in particular for next week? I haven't really kind of thought this through. I basically almost took, I redid my site a little bit, but I didn't plan the classes out yet quite right. So if you have suggestions, email them to me as I do this. I'll at least get the AMAs scheduled because those are every other week, and then we'll come up with something. So,
Dan, I just have a real quick follow-up on the YouTube. You don't have to just think about it. Maybe you can email me. And that is, so I did what you're talking about for my iPad or my iPhone, and it comes up. I go into YouTube. I click on the K, which is my initial. It actually says, I don't know if you can read this or not. Probably can't. So, but yeah, maybe you can. Can you? Is it clear? It's probably not clear enough for you. But at any rate, it gives a strange sort of. It says at Kevin Black 9026, and which means nothing to me. I don't have.
can you show me? Can you show me again? Your channel, yeah. Okay, yeah, the at Kevin Black 9026, what what Google YouTube rolled out probably about a month ago is those are called handles. So like my handle for my YouTube channel is at Dan's Tutorials. And so I could just say, hey, Kevin, you want to check out my YouTube stuff? Go to YouTube and type in my handle at Dan's Tutorials. So they just rolled that out. So what they just gave you a default. There must be 1,900 Kevin Blacks.
And if I click on the manage the account, then it actually shows the K in black.
Yeah.
At 30. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's just a handle that they rolled out, like say about a month, maybe 2 months ago. So.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Hey, quick pop quiz.
Go for it. Hi,
Everybody
Steve.
know how to go down to reactions.
What?
And
Do that. Say that again.
everybody go down to reactions and click yes or no if you like the new 5 p.m. start time.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes,
I like it.
I like it.
Or a thumbs up.
I'll give myself a thumbs up. I can vote for myself, right?
You can.
All right.
Couple times.
You're allowed.
No, I don't care for it, but I'm here on the West Coast, so
Right.
that's okay. Hey, a late happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, big old 5'8" yesterday. So,
Hey, man.
That's young. I'd love to be that. I got the big 7-0
ooh,
10 days ago. 2
sorry,
weeks
I shouldn't
ago,
have said it
so-
that way.
No, that's okay. No, I'm okay. Like I say, it's just a number. I don't feel like that. But
Right. Same here. I don't feel like that. It's yeah. So I want to more on the personal stuff. I want to get back into running. My goal is to get back into running. I say this every year. I was running before the big cancer, which, by the way, 5 years this week, cancer free. So I think it was 5 years ago. I got to look on the refrigerator. I still have my little certificate from the cancer and hematology. My last chemo treatment was right around January 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in here. So it truly is like within a week, 5 years that cancer free. So I go for my last scan on Monday. I get annual scans. I'm a little nervous on that because, you kind of like I'd like to go once a year yet and just make sure. But we'll see. So. All right.
Allowed to eat Wisconsin cheese.
My friends give me crap. I'm not a huge cheese fan. So, and
That's okay. You just wear it on your head. You don't have to eat it.
True, that's true. I was supposed to go to that. I was supposed to go to that game in Green Bay. I'm glad I didn't. The Green Bay and Rams. I got invited. I got invited to
sorry.
that, but oh
Sorry about that.
man,
That wasn't a good birthday gift from my end.
it was cold. So
Now I'm speaking on
hey,
behalf
now Green Bay's going to be playing my Lions that I have to support just because it's Michigan. So I can't root for Green Bay, and I love Wisconsin. I still can't do it.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Steve.
We're the last regular game of the season Sunday night, so
Right.
I know you'll be watching and
7
pulling
o'clock,
against us,
yeah.
But sorry, we're gonna have to do the Lions in.
All right.
Tame
Wouldn't
'em.
surprise me. They've come so far.
I know. I'm kind of happy for their franchise. They're doing pretty good.
Yeah. They've just had a rough, well, God, they've had a rough couple decades, it seems. So,
Oh yeah. Anybody else in the room that's not a football fan? We were talking football. Sorry about that.
American football, not soccer.
Give me the Niners.
Ooh, ow! Our mortal enemy.
I know.
I'm with you, Steve.
They're playing really good
We're all
this
praying
year.
for Daryl Yes, Daryl Hamill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The news today, that was so good to see.
Yes.
So good to see.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chris, I'll trade you the Niners for the Patriots.
No, okay. I mean, we were very fortunate. The way the season started, having Garoppolo and then Brock Purdy now is like, oh, I mean, well, we got McCaffrey too. It's like, if we hadn't gotten those, I don't know where we'd be. With injuries.
All right, everyone. Let's call that a wrap. And nice to see everyone again. It's been a few weeks, so it's like I say, it's nice to see everyone. And I'll have something on the agenda for next week. I'll put it up there tomorrow. And thank you again for all your support. If you know anyone that could benefit from this, let them know. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New
Late
Year.
it, happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Mahalo.
It's good to
Aloha.
see everybody today.
Yes, that
Stay
it
well.
was.
I'm warm.
Happy New Year.
Bye.